Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. I'm the Gray Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Saturday, May 4th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread. First card we are starting our day off with today is the Moon card. This is going to look kind of familiar because I'm pretty sure this is the exact same card that we started yesterday's reading with. I'm not surprised. This type of work, it takes a little bit of time. It takes a little bit of energy. A lot of energetic unpacking here. I told you, we had that Scorpio full moon. Scorpio full moons are very useful in the relationality to uncovering truths, coming into deeper understanding with yourself, building forth into that state or space of building into that sense of understanding. Now, again, that cycle may have either felt like something aligned to a energetic breakthrough, or it may have felt like something a little bit more akin to an energetic crisis, depending on how you are carrying it. That's a very fine line between those two energetic feelings. Specifically due to the fact that what did we describe was happening during I know I've said this over and over again, but it's really important to keep in mind because we saw that during that period, effectively, energetically, that we experienced, there was a combined effort of the eclipse energy, the decompression point on the eclipse, the Mercury retrograde pulling back. It was almost like a slingshot or like a bow, right? Like what happens at that? You have to maintain focus. You have to stay very much in alignment. Why? We also had that additional challenge coming in of that Scorpio full moon, which again, the aspects, the exaltation of the energy of Scorpio can be amazing. It can be revelatory. It can be powerful. It can be curious. It can create all those states and space within the self that can build into that excitement. But what are the energetic detriments of the Scorpio energy? If facilitated in a non-positive or non-healthy way, it can be secretive. It can be cloistered. It can navigate having hard truths that aren't necessarily brought forth in a way of effectively helping something, but may almost inadvertently hurt in the process, right? So we see even now that anything that energetically came up during that eclipse cycle with the complementary aspect of the Scorpio full moon at the tail end of it, the scorpion's tail, right at that moment that there's all that energetic pressure. We've got that moment that almost feels like still navigating a lot of the things that came to the surface there, because one of the major things that we're seeing in this is whatever kind of came up during that period, this isn't feeling like that energy of a jack-in-a-box. You can't necessarily push something back down to a certain extent. When we have a moment and something that energetically rises to the surface, the ability that we acknowledge it is the moment that allows for that productivity of energetic pathwork. It allows for that expansion point in relationality to being able to navigate forward with what was within being brought out from without, right? And so there is almost that inside out approach here, because for a lot of this energy, that is that moment, that energetic breakthrough that almost feels like that sense that amplifies your own your own desire forward. But it's doing so in a way that you're still navigating in that space or place of addressing what has come to the surface from that experience or from that time. Now, masculine and feminine energy right now, in the heart of the divine union frequency, that ability to leave no stone unturned, if you will, that is what's allowing this pathwork of progress to a certain extent. Because even here, if there's something, I told you, if there was something that was coming up in the divine union frequency, that small thing that was magnified, that small thing that was made energetically large, this is not the energetic equivalent of, if you will, of energy that's done that work in such a way that they're willing to energetically put something back, right? That's not how the energy in the divine union works. Why? Because that ability of discovery, that ability of coming into seeking and understanding, that is almost the energetic commitment that we see that the energy in the divine union frequency is offering one another. Right? That's that moment. That is that moment under the eye of clarity, of intimacy. That's that point of building upon, seeing those parts of the self within that you yourself might not be able to see. And we see even now that for a lot of that energy, that ability, like what is happening right now that is allowing for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency to facilitate healing even beyond their own sense of self. There are those moments that even when we know ourselves as well as we can, there are aspects of ourselves that we can't energetically see, right? There are parts of ourselves that are hard to see. Like try to look at your own back. You can't do it, right? So like one of these things that we see energetically is the gift that is being received for a lot of that energy in the divine union frequency is navigating forward and doing something that is energetically difficult, but having the counterpart energy there to almost help facilitate. This is one of those moments that's so valuable because these are not energies that are leaning on each other, right? These aren't energies that are depending upon the other one to do that energetic work for them. Rather, these are energies that are only energetically leaning on one another in the space and place that identifies the parts that they cannot address, the parts that they cannot see, the places that they cannot reach within the self, right? That is that moment that almost like creates that state or space of building upon intimacy that allows for that expansive understanding the self insofar of being able to facilitate healing that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do entirely within the self. While for masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, the opposite. The energetic opposite, because we see that for the energy that's coming into divine union right now, seeing those, perceiving those, recognizing those parts of the other that the other can't see, that is that moment that almost becomes that act of cherishing. Right? That's almost that moment of seeing a side of someone that you haven't seen before, or seeing a part of someone's like inner world that they themselves might not necessarily recognize. Like what happens when we start to feel like we like build upon that energy of feeling or seeing that like secret life of the other. It can almost feel like that beautiful energetic gift, if you will. Because it's that modality of being able to hold space for those pieces of intimacy that a lot of the energy that's moving into the divine union right now is building upon. That's becoming the energetic tie that binds, if you will. And for masculine and feminine energy that's coming into divine union right now, that ability of almost, again, holding with care and concern, like a fastidiousness, all of those sensitive parts of the other. Like keeping those energetic points, like that becomes that moment that feels like it builds that point of energetic intimacy, because that is that moment of feeling energetically safe with someone, even in those spaces and places that you don't typically show or you don't typically express to others. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, a lot of that path work we see, or we identified yesterday, a lot of new energetic connections potentially forming. A lot of new energetic connections potentially forming, or a lot of work in restoration right now. But when I say restoration, I'm going to be very clear on this. I don't mean restoration like someone just energetically coming back and being like, let's do it again. No, this is energetic restoration wherein, again, the masculine energy or the feminine that's going through this work of accountability and understanding, being able to energetically return to something or someone and say, I know what I can do differently now. I energetically see something. I have energetically changed. That ability of recognizing and modifying and being able to say, I can come back towards something because I recognize that I can do something different, is the articulation of someone who is on a healing journey. And we see even now, even for those energies that are going through that, there's a bit of a wait and see. There's a bit of a wait and see because, again, it's not surprising to see this because the energy on the healing journey recognizes and understands that words mean nothing without action. Someone can see something to like the highest degree. Someone can have full clarity on something, but their own ability to act upon that, their own ability to bring that forth as it relates to changes, that is the determinative factor between someone understanding something versus someone being able to energetically act upon it. Masculine and feminine energy building new energetic connections here. We see that for a lot of these new energetic connections, that ability of recognizing and identifying, seeing a similarity or similaritude between what you've energetically occurred and what they've energetically occurred, it can be a little weird, right? It can be a little weird. It can be a little disconcerting, but that's the sign, or that's the characteristic of what occurs when you're on the same healing journey. You'll often have those moments of navigating spaces or places that feel almost oddly familiar in the other, because you're encountering them on the same energetic path. Second card in our 5-card spread is, we've got here our 8 of Swords. Now, masculine and feminine energy that is in separation. A lot of this work here that we're effectively seeing to a certain extent, this is creating that modality of conscientiousness, of caution, of working very slowly or working very fastidiously towards building into new energies of introduction. Why? Because we see even now that a lot of this energy, if on the healing journey, moving forward into new energetic connections, there is that level and degree of energetic trepidation, right? This is the energy that is working very conscientiously on the self. It isn't uncommon when you're working very conscientiously on the self to be a little bit energetically tender, right? Masculine and feminine energy, if you will, if these are new energetic connections, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. A lot of this energy is almost feeling like they're catching or they're meeting someone at this moment that feels very energetically tender, because it almost feels like a little bit of that dark night of the soul energy, right? We see that. This energy coming out of this eclipse cycle, that was a lot of intensity. There was a lot of breakthroughs, but I also articulated that the feeling between a breakthrough and a crisis can sometimes be like this. It can be like, it's really close to, like really close together. So we see even now, these are energies that are moving forward in a way that they're almost pushing each other. They're pushing themselves out of each other's comfort zone because they're on the healing journey. What is the feminine doing to push themselves out of the comfort zone? They're moving into that space or place of allowing that conversations, bringing forth things that they would typically not bring forth as quickly and easily. Why? Because this is the feminine energy that's working into that pathwork of feeling like some of the past was a moment where they didn't feel like they were in energetic alignment to someone. That those discoveries, those moments led to some of those breakaway points, right? So what is the feminine energy doing at this time? Feminine is doing their best to almost build new energetic connections by articulating what went energetically wrong in the past in order not to facilitate that energetically happening again, right? While for masculine energy in separation right now, we see that a lot of the masculine energy is doing that same work. What is the masculine energy doing right now in separation? Masculine energy recognizing that when you lead to feminine with that false sense of self, when you create that false sense of self, all you do is potentially create pathwork wherein you're not necessarily moving in the direction that you would aspire to, and potentially even the feminine's not moving in the direction they would aspire to, because again, the feminine acts as mirrors to a certain extent and moves in the same direction with you. So this is, again, a lot of the masculine energy pushing their own boundaries in trying to be their own authentic self. But that can be very hard because the masculine energy taking down a lot of that false sense of self and trying to lead forth the feminine from a place of honesty and vulnerability, it feels very energetically triggering. It feels very vulnerable, right? So even now we see that these energies, they're like navigating forth, pushing their own envelopes, if you will, but doing so all for the sake of recognizing and identifying that that's not feeling like they're pushing out of their comfort zone. They're pushing out of their comfort zone in the spaces and places that they feel do not energetically keep them safe, but in a way energetically block their blessings. Right? So this is beautiful because this is a lot of it's hairy work. It's not fun. It's not fun, but it is functional. It serves the energetic purpose, right? It's hard, but we can do energetically hard things. While for masculine and feminine energy, even if that's that moment of energetic restoration, these are the hard conversations in relationality to things that may have initially created the separation points. These are not energies that are coming back together and throwing the past out and just moving forward. These are energies that say the only way forward is back. The only way to create a pathwork here is to address what was a blockage in the past. So you see even now that these are the energies that are committing themselves to that pathwork of navigating through those spaces and places that may have created the confusion, may have created the difficulties in the past, because that's the energy that's effectively saying, I am committing myself to showing you that there has been something that has changed in my own ability to navigate through something that may have been an energetic hurdle in the past. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, that conscientiousness, right? What happens in the moment wherein not only are you able to show someone, and this is a little funny, I'm sorry, when you're able to show someone an energetic vulnerability point, but instead of them reacting in the way that first caused the expression of the energetic wound, right? The minute, showing someone that sensitive area, and then someone instead not becoming reactive around it, right? Like almost that moment that even in the expression of something that is vulnerable, we start to feel that moment of locking up. That moment of someone being like, that's okay. I don't see anything wrong with that. I can hold that. I can hold space for that. That's that moment that almost immediately acts as a mirror back to us. Because now we see that a lot of these energies are looking at those same wounds and saying, do I need to energetically carry that anymore? Was that something that I need to energetically carry? Or is it because I was in spaces and places that caused those wounds in the first place? So we see even now that this is almost taking a lot of that self-reflection that's occurring around those sensitivities. And it's all that asking of the self and saying, is this really a limitation because it protects me energetically, or is it because it's something that I need to heal from? So even in that modality, even in that expression of feeling that safety and security in a place that is difficult, it immediately almost starts begging the question within the self. We already see that some of the energy in the divine union, like coming into divine union, their own wheels are turning in a way and saying is there something here that I can navigate? Is there something here I can heal? The energy in the heart of the divine union frequency, they're effectively doing that. That's what they're doing. They're just getting right to it, because this is that energy that's effectively already built into that heart of intimacy so much that there's that moment that says this is the exception, the energetic exception to the rule to a certain extent. It almost says in other spaces and places, I would never be able to cross that threshold. I would never be able to navigate this type of work. But I feel that sense of energetic security with you, that I can do energetically anything. So when I can do energetically anything, it immediately calls to mind my own focus on what I can't do. So even here we see that a lot of that work, it feels a little stop-start. Right? Because a lot of that is almost working through and discovering new energetic boundaries, right? It's almost redefining them to a certain extent. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here our Strength card in its reversal. Now, what's really intriguing here, this is vulnerable work that we see that is occurring in the heart of the divine union. But it's also very energetically strong. It takes a tremendous amount of strength to be energetically vulnerable, right? This is a lot of that energy working through the divine union frequency right now, adopting that silk to steel approach, right? The idea, the aspiration not being one where it's you don't have rigidness, right? Because the lack of being able to set an energetic boundary, that sense of energetic resilience, is something that is important. It's viable. It's what energetically protects us. It's where we energetically stand. Versus that moment of energetic softness, that ability to stay soft, that ability to stay vulnerable. This is a lot of the path work that we see that is being engaged upon for a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency right now. And it's difficult work because it is a shifting territory. Right? It's it's something that requires a fluidity to it to a certain extent, right? It requires that energetic discernment. So what do we see that a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency is doing right now? They are utilizing that energetic nuance or that energetic discernment to almost articulate upon what feels like it is something that is navigable versus what feels like it is something that is an energetic limitation, right? And that's either happening right now within the self or that's happening external to the self. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union frequency, that is not necessarily that energetic discernment. Now we're starting to see these energies come back into energetic alignment, right? Because this is where the path work starts to replicate itself. Because for the energy that's pushing forward, right, navigating something energetically difficult in a new way, then that becomes that moment that this kind of work is required. When someone experiences something, when you give someone an energetic wound to hold, and they say, okay, I will navigate and I will hold this, I will stay distant from it, I will steer clear of this. That is that moment that you do the same thing. These are the energies looking at that, and they're discerning to try to be more articulate on what they've energetically asked someone to do or to not do. So we see even now that this is where we find these energies coming back into alignment in relationality to the work that they're doing at this time. So we've got a lot of alignment right now that's happening for the energy in the heart of the divine union, as well as the energy coming into the divine union. While for the energy in separation right now, this is doing that as you build a new energetic connection with another. This could be a lot of energy right now that is navigating that territory within the self. Why? Because the more we're able to navigate that territory within the self, the more we're able to articulate it to those around us. And there's a big desire right now for a lot of the energy in separation that feels like the amplification of saying, please don't misunderstand me, right? And so even now we see that this is almost a lot of energy that's going inward in the act of energetic discernment to try to be very, energetically clear. I told you, what was this energy doing even in separation right now? A lot of this is like a bit of pickiness, trying to discern on the pathwork what was something that it was experienced versus something that can be changed internally. What was something that can be experienced versus something that was changed externally, right? Something that needs to be changed externally, that's a movement towards a different manifestation, something that can be changed. Something that needs to change internally, that's internal path work. That's setting yourself on a path of purpose. So we see even now, a lot of this energy, if these are new connections, being very specific in relationality to what they feel was energetically occurred to them, like something they experienced versus something that they're working to change within themselves. And this energy, what we like about the energy in separation is this is not energy that says it's all one or all the other, right? That's not the healing journey. The energy that's on the healing journey is doing that work of discerning what is something that was energetically experienced versus something that is internally navigated, because that ability to figure out the proximity and locationality of something is effectively showing the fact that the energy itself is very discerning in relationality to how they move and how they experience things. So the ability to do this in a way is almost like what's building that pathwork forward for a lot of the energy in relationality to feeling that similitude or that similarity between how you experience and navigate things versus how another does. While for the energy that is coming into a restorational phase right now, that same energetic discernment is required. I just told you, it's energetically required to be able to identify the difference between something that actually feels like it is going into a place of productivity, something that can be healed, as opposed to something that may still feel very akin to something that is unhealed. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, fourth card in our 5-card spread is beautiful energy today. We've got our 6 of Cups and it's upright, right? Because what we're energetically seeing to a certain extent right now, energy, like this is the energy right now that's even in the new connections. This is literally energy building new connections, trying to see if other energy is on the same healing journey. If they're doing the same path work, if they're working with the same mindfulness in relationality to building upon healthy energetic connections. And that is something that we're identifying and recognizing to a certain extent. It requires that active energetic discernment, right? And that moment, that modality is almost the expression, the observation, even if it's not the same path work. someone that is effectively having and experiencing that energetic mindfulness in relationality to how they navigate through circumstances and situations. Whether there is that energetic mindfulness in relationality to when something occurs, navigating whether it's something that needs to be changed from within versus whether something needs to be externally navigated from without. That is literally, that is the energy saying, I don't need you to put it energetically into words. I just need to observe that you navigate things in the same way, that you see from my same perspective, that you are as energetically mindful about how you navigate your own energy as I navigate mine. And we see even now that that is that moment of energetic harmony that occurs in looking towards someone and saying, you think like I think. We move in similar ways. And that's that moment that, again, you don't create that in another. You energetically seek it out. So we see even now that a lot of that energy potentially working towards new energetic connections in this way. Or if this is energy that is coming into a healing cycle, something that is restorational here, this is that signpost of the difference between whether something is just coming back in the same way that it was versus someone that is truly on a healing journey, because that is the moment of someone being able to come back with accountability, doing that energetic discernment, someone that's shown the work, they've done that energetic work of thinking something through, seeing what they could have energetically done differently, seeing what may have occurred that was outside of themselves. This is the energy that's doing that distribution, that distributive work in not, and I want to say this, not distributing blame, right? Because there's no place for blame on a healing journey, but distributing the essence of energetic accountability in relationality to what one can change within the self versus what was energetically experienced and why it occurred. Fifth card, while for the energy right now, coming into the divine union frequency and energy at the heart of the divine union frequency, these are these energies coming back into alignment. Because remember how these energies were doing separate things before? Now they're back in lockstep. You notice that? Because what we effectively see to a certain extent right now is initially we had that energy that was focusing or keeping its like we had these energies focusing on different priorities, right? The energy, right? The energy that was first and foremost, the energy coming into the divine union, almost energetically avoiding sensitivity points, observing them, being introduced to them, and then being energetically mindful of them. The distance building upon the heart of compassion. The energy in the heart of the divine union, having held those for so long, going deeper. Having that moment of feeling the exception to the rule and feeling that ability to move forward in that way, in a way that you haven't before. Both of these energies doing the same thing, but in different ways. Now the energy's back to doing the same thing, because what is this energy doing? They are navigating what is within them that feels like a standard, something that they hold firm to because it feels like it is empowering, versus things that they carry because they're energetic wounds, because they're energetic harms. Why is the energy doing this? Because that is the articulation and the definition between what feels like it sets the energetic standard going forward in partnership versus what is something that requires that need of healing. And the only way to discern the difference between those points is if you do that self-work. You have to be very aware of the self to identify the difference between what you consider an energetic standard, something you hold yourself up to, versus a boundary, which is a wound that you're carrying, that you hold some kind of like, you're protecting some kind of deeper insecurity or wound or hurt around. Fifth card in our five, and the energy is discerning this within the self to be able to facilitate positive connections with the counterpart. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here, that's it. And it takes a bit of work, it takes some work. It takes some work. It takes a lot of deep diving. That's some heavy stuff. That's some heavy stuff. Looking at something within the self and saying to oneself, is this an energetic standard or is this an energetic boundary? Is this something that empowers me or is this something I'm holding because I feel a weakness or an insecurity there? This energy doing a lot of work in that moment, because that's that moment that builds upon the articulation point in relationality to what is being experienced and how one experiences it, right? You can navigate forward in a space or place, and you can be feeling like that excitement in terms of like having something energetically difficult that you're doing. But you're feeling the excitement, you're feeling the challenge of doing something energetically difficult because you're holding yourself to an energetic standard that you're trying to reach, right? And you're trying to push past it, right? Whereas if you're experiencing a boundary, that's something that, like, again, that moment or that modality, if you want to heal that boundary, you have to be ready. You have to be excited to be able to like heal something energetically, because there could be that energy of wanting to do something but feeling the insecurity of not being able to. That's something that needs to be navigated or mitigated within the self, because that effectively identifies whether you feel like you're doing so in a way that becomes joyful, in a way that feels positive, in a way that feels exciting, versus something that you may feel like you're doing and you're feeling the anxiety, you're feeling the wound, and you're feeling like you don't actually energetically want to move forward in that way. So we see even now that these energies are doing a lot of work in parsing out the differentiation between those factors, because specifically something about the last few days has brought to the surface some of these energetic wounds, some of these energetic hurts, some of these difficulties or hurdles. And that almost like immediately, like what happens when someone is energetically mindful in a state of compassion around something that is an energetically sensitive area for you? It immediately opens the door to a new energetic possibility. The minute that something that hurt you is held with a sense of care is the moment that you can look at something in a different way. And we see right now that for a lot of the energy coming into the divine union, that is what we're seeing is happening to a certain extent. That feeling of energetic safety. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in the heart of the divine union frequency, that is that moment that you already are recognizing these aspects of yourself. You've seen each other's wounded inner childs. You hold space for them. And we see even now that for a lot of that energy, a lot of that work, a lot of that path work here is that moment of, again, reassessing what you are holding for another. Doing this in that mutual safe space, having those points of identifying and working through problems, but in a way that you're almost letting yourself like experience that point of pushing through something, navigating those like uncharted territories of the self, being able to unpack something that you may not necessarily feel like you were ready to unpack before, specifically because the energy is experiencing that moment of being the energetic exception to the rule. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, like that is that moment of identification. That is that moment of looking towards the other and saying, do you see and experience things the same way that I do? Right? Because that moment, even now, we see to a certain extent a lot of these new energetic connections. They may have a lot of similarities that they're experiencing in relationality to things that have occurred in the past, but their own perception on them, the way that they energetically carry something, the way that they energetically speak about something, that's almost that moment that we see now. The energy is being very attentive and listening to one another to say almost again, it's not just enough that you energetically experience something, but how did you experience? What was your experience? What did you think about during those times? Because that moment of seeing something is that moment of feeling like whether you're in alignment in relationality to how you carry something, that almost builds that sense of real energetic alignment in relationality to seeing something from the same way. And it doesn't require perfect similarity, but the approach, the energetic approach, if you will, the perspective, the ability to parse out the way that one navigates, if you will. That is what we see that a lot of the energy is building upon in relationality to new energetic connections. While for the active energetic restoration, this is what is being seen. This is what is being looked at. Not just whether someone is returning to someone else to a certain extent, but whether their point of view has shifted, whether their perspective has shifted, whether that change is apparent. That is what's almost allowing for that point of modification and consideration around some circumstances and situations. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our moon card in combination with our 8 of Swords. Heavy energy. May I please have one card to clarify, please? Clarification coming through right now with our Queen of Wands in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy right now. in the heart, in separation. This is why the feminine energy is utilizing so much of this active energetic discernment right now. Because the feminine energy is recognizing and identifying. This is just a simple fact of existence. That when the feminine energy is on an energetic healing journey, that is a moment that feminine energy builds that point of energetic resilience to a certain extent. Right? It builds that point of the feminine becoming energetically resilient. And the feminine energy is simply understanding that often if the feminine energy is moving towards new energetic connections, and the energy is not in the same alignment and relationality to experiencing or working through those same things, those can be those moments where the feminine energy says, my aspiration, my work will feel energetically intimidating to those around me. That feminine energy almost identifying and saying, my sense of energetic confidence will be energetically intimidating to those that are not on the same energetic journey. Like that's the feminine energy having that energetic breakthrough point. Like it's just the feminine energy accepting and understanding that when you are on the energy, when you are on a healing journey, you are not everyone's cup of tea. There will be those that tell you that they don't like that tea. There will be those that they're like, like that is that point of the feminine understanding and almost identifying and saying, if I don't put myself in the spaces and places that understand what I am doing, I will never feel like I am energetically fitting in. I will always feel like I'm in that place and I'm not in that point of being energetically accepted. So we see even now that this is the feminine energy potentially building new pathwork with new energetic connections, almost articulating, not in a point of doubting themselves, but almost expanding upon the experience towards masculine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, and basically saying, I now recognize I was internalizing something about myself that had less to do with something that was energetically wrong with me and more about the fact that I was in the wrong place. I was trying to bake bread in a laundromat. I was trying to wash clothes in a bakery. Like the feminine energy working that through on their own pathwork is what is allowing the feminine energy to come into that state or space of looking at something and saying, I understand that a part of my own karmic hurt healing has had to do with doing that work. So we see even now that a lot of the feminine energy right now is coming into that point of energetic discernment and almost articulating that to a certain extent, because that, as I told you, what has been happening for a lot of the feminine energy right now. The externalization point in healing something, taking a wound you are carrying within the self that was not yours and pulling it out. That is basically how the feminine energy is helping to build a point in clarity in terms of going forward. And the feminine energy is being very conscientious and observing towards the masculine right now, because the feminine doesn't want to do that again. The feminine energy is like building new connections with masculine and being like, so where do you keep the flour? Where do you keep the milk? Are there any there's a lot of folded clothes around here. Is this a laundromat? Oh, this is a laundromat. Like that's the feminine energy that's like utilizing the path of discernment right now. Like in that modality of just like not looking, not like bringing the flour in, being like, I'm going to turn this place into a bakery. No, this is the feminine energy that's just looking around and being like, is this a bakery or is this a laundromat? Like that's literally what they're doing right now. Like that's how they're building those new energetic connections. Right? They're trying to make sure they're in the right place. The feminine energy is not trying to change to become what they need to be in the place. The feminine energy is just looking to see if they're in the right place. While for masculine energy right now, what we see is happening is this is masculine energy that's potentially moving towards feminine right now with, again, a lot of conscientiousness, a lot of trepidation. I have to strike a lot of this masculine energy, building new energetic connections with feminine. I got to admit, like, listen, if this is masculine energy that's coming towards feminine and they're being very energetically vulnerable, like that's why the masculine energy is intimidated right now, because we see even now that a lot of that masculine energy doing that work to a certain extent, this is you trying to lead forth to feminine in a way that may feel more vulnerable than you ever have before. It can be intimidating, right? Like that's that moment. There's that softness there. And there's that moment of, again, like that sense of uncertainty, because there's that moment of looking towards feminine. And here's the thing, like, this is what happens when you're doing this work. You're like, I'm going to be my honest expression of self. I hope we're in alignment. I hope they want the same things I want. But what's beautiful about this is not masculine that's saying, I know, I'll just say what I think they want me to say. I'll just tell them what I think they want me to say, because that's a masculine being like, why am I going to do that? That's going to become a problem in the long term. I'm going to build on path work, and we're going to find ourselves down this like country lane. And they might not necessarily have wanted any of those things. They might have just been saying yes to me because they liked me too. So this is masculine energy saying the only way I can have everything I want with feminine is if I'm completely honest with them. And it's the scariest thing to do. And I have to accept and risk the possibility that the feminine may say, that's not my cup of tea. But that's a masculine saying, like, I need to make sure that we want to have the same energetic tea, right? Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. This is that energetic equivalent of the feminine starting to heal from the space. Like, where are the feminine energies' vulnerabilities from? Where are those wounds carried that the feminine's bringing into the divine union? Feminine energy, having tried to make bread in a laundromat. Feminine energy, trying to wash clothes in a bakery. This is the feminine energy, feeling the support and the energetic support of being around an energy that's in alignment with them, and just immediately having that experience of suddenly recognizing and feeling and almost saying to themselves, some of those wounds I'm carrying, I'm not necessarily carrying because they indicate something that I have an energetic standard on, but there's a line that was energetically crossed. That I had those moments of not feeling like I was energetically fitting into somewhere. And so I have these points where I feel insecure about places, because I feel like being my authentic version of self is that vulnerability and weakness. So we see even now that for a lot of the feminine energy moving into divine union frequency, a lot of that self-assessment to a certain extent, and a lot of that work, and again, location. What is within the self that needs to be an energetic standard? What needs to be pulled out and say that is something that isn't energetically healed from? And it requires the feminine to know their own self, right? So we see that there's a lot of that continuing introspection that is occurring to a certain extent around the feminine to identify the difference between what feels like it is a standard, like what is within the self that they're holding themselves to, versus something that they're experiencing or have experienced in the past that they're trying to energetically heal from. While for masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union, same exact work happening. These energies are back in alignment. Masculine energy doing the same thing with the feminine. Healing themselves. What is masculine healing from? Masculine is healing from those spaces and places where feminine didn't know themselves enough. The unhealed feminine that may have injured the masculine. When the feminine doesn't know themselves enough, that's that moment that they could subject the masculine to their emotions. The emotions become weapons instead of bridges. The masculine feels like they don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. And that's that moment that they lose the energetic trust in the feminine. And the masculine's even potentially looking about when that first occurred. They're going back and they're trying to see like when that insecurity energetically started, because that is the masculine that's now feeling the safety of being in an environment wherein they're feeling the energetic safety of the feminine, but they're still carrying some of the weakness from the past experiences in. So both of these energies doing that work in learning to trust. Masculine in learning to trust the feminine. Feminine in learning to trust themselves enough to be able to energetically protect the masculine, right? Both of these energies doing this work, but coming in, one is coming into confidence and one is learning to energetically trust and feel safety in intimacy. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Eight of Swords in combination with our Strength card in its reversal. We've got here Judgment in its reversal. This is hard, right? Because this is taking a lot. What happens, I told you, a lot of this energy either coming into the divine union frequency right now or in the heart of it. When you break through, when you come through an energetic cycle, you can't look back on past experiences because you don't have an energetic reference point, right? You don't have an energetic reference point. You even like a lot of these energies are looking back at past scenarios right now to try to identify something, and they're saying, I can't, right? When you're on a healing journey, that's what's so problematic. You can't reference, to a certain extent, some past scenario, because how are you going to reference a place that you feel like you've energetically healed from? You can only reference it to a point, right? Like if the work is all messed up, right? If it's all messed up and you go back to look at it, you're like, I can't look at that. That's a mess. Like there's only so much, right? So we see even now, a lot of this path work, to a certain extent, it feels like a little bit of an energetic clean slate. And it's hard because it's like you don't have a template for it. You don't know what to do because you don't have anything to look back on. You can only look back so far, right? Like that's that moment that feels like, there's that anxiety point, because again, these energies are trying to move forward with a lot of energetic discernment. And what do we do? What do we do when we can't look back on the past with any sense of energetic clarity and we feel the uncertainty in relationality to how we move forward? We move in such a way that our intentions guide us. We let go and we energetically surrender the outcome. And by moving forward with intentionality of purpose, then that's that moment that, again, the intentionality is the validation factor. Feeling that sense of security in that one's own intentionality is what energetically guides, to a certain extent. And these energies are doing a lot of work in that capacity. And simply the fact, what are these energies doing in different ways that is building that point of energetic security in doing so? The feeling that you're not doing it alone. That's what I mean about not leaning, not relying on the other energetic counterpart in this way. Just feeling that sense of doing it energetically together. Right? That's all you need, is that sense of trust in relationality to feeling like your own intentions are guiding you in the same direction. That is like, in a way, that motivational factor, because that's that moment of energetic support. So we see even now that a lot of these energies may be like building back towards each other, explaining things, talking about their processes, getting that validation point and saying like, I believe your intentions here are guiding us in the right direction. I appreciate, like, even if we can't see what's energetically ahead, I recognize and I feel that path work that you're guiding towards. I'm giving you that affirmation that I feel like that is the best direction to go, right? So we see even now, like, that is that sense of energetic trust that both the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency and the energy that is coming into the divine union frequency is navigating at this time. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, a lot of this energy in separation is doing that same exact path work. The only difference is it's being utilized in the active energetic discernment. You don't see, like, you're learning about others. You're learning about new energetic connections or aspects that you can't see. So what are you doing? You're navigating forward. You're being as open and honest as possible, but also with that sense of discernment in relationality to how you energetically have experienced things from the past, to give indications as to how you might address and navigate things in the future, right? And so that's that moment even now, that's either being utilized in relationality to building new energetic connections with another, or on that path of energetic restoration, if there's someone coming back towards someone and saying, the way I was seeing something was flawed. The way I was navigating something was flawed. I recognize that. I want to do something energetically different. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Strength card in its reversal in combination with our Six of Cups. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Three of Cups. This is beautiful because even for the energy and separation, this is energy and separation that isn't trying to energetically change one another. They're not trying to even if these are new energetic connections, these are not energies looking towards the other, being like, how can I energetically change them into what I want them to be? This is energy. If you're on the healing journey, you're like, that is bonkers. That is bonkers. Who would ever do that? Right? Like, that is bonkers. This is the energy that's like, I don't need to energetically change someone or adapt someone. I just need to move towards the energy that's in alignment with me. There's a lot of people in the world. This is the energy going, there's a lot of people in the world. I just need to move towards the energy that's in alignment with me, and that'll be the easement. And this is why the energy is trying to come into that place of authenticity. Because how can you find what you're seeking without being what you're seeking? How can you look for what you want if you aren't in that modality? So we see even now for a lot of the energy in that space or place, working fastidiously to just be your authentic version of self, if you will. Letting that authenticity shine through. It feels really vulnerable. It feels very childlike, right? But that same energy is what is amplifying the feeling of energetic excitement, because what happens in those moments when you're your authentic self and you meet same? The best feeling in the world, isn't it? It's like the best feeling in the world because it doesn't feel like you have to try, because anything you bring forward is just accepted energetically. So now we see that this is a lot of energy right now that's potentially making new energetic connections, or trying to make new energetic connections, but trying to be their most authentic version of self in the process, by almost saying to themselves, like attracts like. If I'm not like, and that's also the energy that says like attracts like. And when like attracts like, you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, because like does not attract everything. Like attracts like. So if you're suitable for everyone, like that might be a moment, that might be like an issue. Like that's almost that moment of looking at something and saying, like, that's the point. Like a lot of this energy is saying my failure point in the past was trying to move towards approval instead of trying to move towards alignment. Approval means that you're dissolving the self to become more adaptable to anything around you. Alignment means you just allow your own authentic sense of self to guide you forward into the spaces and places that you feel that energetic attraction towards. So we see even now there's a lot of new energy building upon connections with that sense of energetic alignment, which is really beautiful. Or these are energies that are coming back into alignment because something, and this has to be an extreme shift here. Like someone has shifted so much, they've moved so much on a healing journey that they're now having those energetic breakthroughs that are allowing for some kind of pathwork of coming towards someone and saying, I completely see. Like I've done the energetic work. And that's the energy that's almost saying to the other, it's not that they're going to do, this is not energy saying they're going to do the energetic work. This is energy that is literally saying, I also know that words mean nothing without action. I'm literally actively doing the work. They're actually coming towards someone being like, I am in the process. I am literally doing the work. Like I'm already doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not promising to do it. I'm not saying I'm going to correct the behavior. This is the energy that's literally showing examples of the fact that they're already integrating this path work. Well, for the energy right now that's coming into divine union, and the energy in the heart of the divine union, this is that moment that literally feels like a lot of this is trying to energetically heal this, not just for the sense of the self, but to expand that energy outwards, right? Working through, coming out, building upon all those spaces or places that you feel those insecurities. Why? Because these energies are doing that for the sake of wanting to have those breakthroughs. Right? Now the difference here is, again, there's still that trepidation point. There's still that energy coming into divine union right now that's being a little energetically mindful of seeing what the other is carrying, like on the other's timeline. But even now there's that sense of building upon that amplification of joy, because that's that moment of seeing someone's insecurities and saying, even your weaknesses, even your vulnerabilities, they feel like blessings. What you carry that you feel is like your red flag is the greenest flag to me. Because that's that moment of looking towards someone and saying, like, I don't, like, your own ability to carry your insecurities. Like, that's that moment that we carry them energetically the same way. You see how even that moment feels like that energetic separation point, because that's that moment of saying your insecurities don't overwhelm the situation or circumstance. They're easy to carry. And that's not you energetically faking that. That's just the way that you are, because these energies found each other and in alignment with one another, right? While for masculine and feminine, the heart of the divine union frequency, this is you trying to tackle those vulnerabilities, trying to tackle those insecurities, all for even bringing forth even more abundance, more joy, more positivity, like amplifying something positive in such a way. Like that's where we see that a lot of that work is like, I want to navigate something vulnerable to extend and build bigger on that place of energetic abundance. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Between our 6 of Cups in combination with our 4 of Cups. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now in our 10 of Cups in its reversal, right? The only way you can energetically heal something is addressing what's not working. The only way to come into the only way to build into a positive is tackling the energetic negative. So we see even now, like the energy at the heart of the divine union frequency. It's not that everything is energetically perfect, right? You're experiencing the same thing. You're experiencing the same circumstances and situations as those around you. The only difference is your perspective, is your commitment on what to energetically do with it. These aren't energies that experience something energetically difficult and say, I guess we'll just have to deal with that. I guess we'll just have to be in this negative state. I guess we'll just have to navigate this burden. That's the energy that looks towards those moments and says, how can we make that better? How can we energetically improve that? How can we take that to a place or space that feels like it is energetically better? And we see even now that ability of the energy in the divine union. There's always something that can't be navigated, right? There's always that unknown factor. We see even now that a lot of this energy, especially both the energy in the heart of the divine union and the energy coming into the divine union, there's that moment of not being able to see everything that is going to occur in the future with perfect clarity. But why is this? That is not the point, right? Because the energy is not moving. Again, the energy in the divine union is not in the divine union for the sake of a manifestation goal. The energy of the divine union is in the divine union for the sakes of all the moments in between, right? That is the energy that says the manifestation goals are nice, but I'm not in the divine union for the sake of the manifestation goal. The energy in the divine union says, what's the point of having a manifestation goal if we're going to be energetically miserable from place to place to place to place? Life is what happens between manifestation goals. So we see even now that for a lot of that energy, that ability to do so would almost say to themselves, they're working on this is far more important, because that manifestation goal can never come at the cost of the energetic harmony. That manifestation goal should never come at the cost of what we energetically have between ourselves. So even now we see that a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency and coming into the divine union frequency is feeling that sense of energetic possibility, that sense of energetic joy that almost creates that easement that we talk about when building towards manifestations, which is, again, the idea of surrendering the energetic outcome, because that's that moment that you're not looking for happiness. You're not saying, I'm miserable now. I can't stand this now. But when we get here, I'll be happy. That's the energy that almost says, I don't care where we are. We could be anywhere. I'm just glad to be here with you. Right? That's that moment that feels that that energetic abundance moment, because that is that moment that is the amplification of the joy that you bring with you where you go, that is built on the sense that you're not holding some kind of aspirational standard in relationality to what you're trying to build towards. It all feels like that's the icing on the cake, if you will, right? It's not the cake. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation, that energetic equivalent, if you will, that modality wherein you are working in separation right now, this is energy that is, again, building on new energetic connections. And that is why we see even now, what is that energy doing to try to build these energetic connections? This is the energy that is utilizing what did not work in the past as a bridge. They're taking what didn't work as a bridge to build the new energetic connections. So a lot of authentic conversations about what may have occurred in the past that did not go right, that is helping to facilitate that feeling. And this is what's interesting about it. Someone talking, these are new energies talking to one another not just talking about what occurred in the past, but actively listening if there are similarities, to see if they perceived what feels very similar in the same way. Because that ability to identify not just something that feels similar, but whether you experienced it in a similar way is also a way to navigate whether you feel like there is energetic alignment. Because that is that moment of looking towards something and saying it's not just the fact that we both experience something that is difficult, but we're both carrying it in the same way. We're both taking the same lessons from it. That is also an amplification of alignment, because that's that moment of saying, different energies can walk out of something with completely different energetic lessons, like completely. And that's why we see even now that ability to perceive that is very vital and important. And that's why if there's any pathwork of restoration here, there's almost the energy if someone's like, I learned an energetic lesson. Someone's like, do tell. What did you learn through that? Like, please, no. That was like either the energy going, no, that was not what you were supposed to take from that lesson. That was not the lesson. Like, these energies are literally being like, what did you learn? No, or yes. Oh, good. Oh, okay. Like, it's like that, or it's either like, no, that was not what you were supposed to take from that lesson, or, oh, yes, okay, good, yes, that was what, yeah, like, it's literally, like, I can see either that happening on two different modalities right now. Someone being like, thank God, or being like, what? No, like, continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Queen of Cups in its reversal and our Judgment card in its reversal. I gotta say, I have to admit, if there is any pathwork of reconciliation here, I gotta stress there might be a lot of feminine energy right now that's going, you did like what? No, what? No. Like, I'm just seeing that a lot here with some of the energy. Because again, one of the things that we're seeing here right now is masculine and feminine, and I'm not surprised to see this. Why? Because we saw that a lot of the masculine energy was coming into that moment of like the energetic regret space, looking back at something, being like, oh, I see it now, right? And some of the masculine energy is bringing forth what they saw towards the feminine, right? And so some of the feminine energy is potentially receiving something that feels akin to that, but it's like what's being brought to them is not what they want. It's like when the cat brings like a mouse to you and you're like, thanks, I think, what is okay? Like there might be a little bit of energetic confusion happening in some of these pathways right now. And even here, I have to say, like, what's happening for some of the feminine energy is almost looking at something and being like not being reactionary, but almost trying to like halfway healed. Like halfway healed is the best way I can put it. Like someone being like, I mean, thank you, but like kind of energy. Yeah, the 10 of Cups in its reversal. Because what we're seeing here, I mean, like, here's the thing. There's a lot of work here. This is good. There's a lot of energy here that is restorational. There's a lot of energy here that is like on that journey. I keep telling you that there's a lot of energy right now that I'm seeing to a certain extent that does feel in some way a little bit, I keep getting halfway healed. Like halfway getting it. Like, so, and again, and not getting it in the sense, and what I mean by that is like, someone who's like on the pathwork, but there's still a lot of deviation points that could occur between here or there, right? So we do see that for some of the feminine energy and separation right now, there could be some work or some energetic return that's happening of someone having done like half of the energetic assignment to a certain extent, which may feel reflective in like someone's like, I want to say like appreciating the gesture, but not getting the energetic assignment. That's like the best way I can describe it. And the feminine energy, even working through that moment of seeing and experiencing and feeling the energetic compassion in someone doing half of that energetic work, but also recognizing that doing half the work doesn't mean that something is completely understood. So we even see that there could be a lot of that work right now in, if there's energy of restoration here, helping, like almost, again, I told you, articulating between someone else's experience of something versus yours, to try to identify and meet them in the middle in relationality between like what you were experiencing versus what they were experiencing, right? Like coming into that path work of being like, no, you got, like, you know what I mean? Like almost like checking each other's work. Well, for masculine and feminine energy, that this is new energetic connections on, this is really beautiful, because this is not necessarily a negative, right? Because we have to stress that when you're making a new energetic connection, it's not that you're in necessarily complete lockstep. For feminine energy, seeing masculine energy that's halfway on that journey, that is a good sign. That's a feminine that doesn't feel like, again, that's not a feminine saying, I need to go fix that for them. That's almost a feminine saying, well, if you got halfway on something, if you were like almost energetically there in some kind of past experience, this is good, because I might be the other half that you need to energetically figure out that, like, that work. I might be that other component that you energetically needed. So if you're understanding, if feminine energy is seeing masculine that's looking at something and saying like, I don't know what I did wrong, I did all this right. Feminine might be looking at masculine, some new energetic connections, bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. And the feminine's going, I don't think you did. Feminine's going, I don't see anything that you did wrong there. I think I know what the missing piece was. I think I know what the missing component was. And the feminine being like, why is the feminine saying that? Because the feminine saying, because I've been doing the other half of the work, right? Like that's the feminine energy, almost going into that modality to a certain extent and feeling that like that is the moment that feels like potentially an energetic breakthrough. And the feminine in a way is like not, if a feminine experiences that, that's almost like the feminine energy, like not wanting to get overly excited, taking that wait and see approach to a certain extent, because that's the feminine energy going, do I tell him? Like, it's like almost like that. It's like the feminine going, you know what I mean? Well, for masculine energy right now, if you are in separation, this is again either that path work of energetic restoration, wherein you're doing that work and potentially trying to energetically heal with the feminine. You're bringing them what you like, what you feel like you've done, and there might be that path work of recorrection of the feminine being like half, like, you know, like that. But I have to stress here, like both of these energies, if coming into that, we see here that the authenticity of the masculine being able to articulate on their insecurities, being able to articulate on their failures, like that modality of coming through in that expression to a certain extent. That for the feminine, seeing a masculine that's like, again, it's not the fact that the masculine has to be energetically perfect here. This is the masculine energy that identifies and recognizes when they're able to bring that sense of insecurity towards the feminine. That's the feminine says, if I can see what you're doing, I can help you in that way. If you're leaving yourself amenable for energetic correction, then there is that pathwork of energetic possibility there that opens up, because this is the feminine energy that's not looking to the masculine and requiring them to be energetically perfect. They just want the masculine energy to be energetically honest. And so we see even now that this is difficult, because the masculine energy trying to come into that heart of vulnerability, that has a lot to do with potentially a lot of masculine energy and separation, saying, when did I stop trusting feminine? When did I stop trusting being able to be energetically honest to feminine? So we see even now that there's a lot of that masculine energy doing that unpacking, if you will, to try to identify and articulate when that energetically occurred. While for masculine energy right now, if these are new energetic connections, this is the masculine energy that is doing that work in relationality to navigating circumstances and situations with new energetic connections. And there's a lot of like this is masculine feeling that same energetic sense of uncertainty, because this is the masculine that's trying to be authentic with the new feminine energy. But it's hard because it's vulnerable, and it's hard for the masculine to be vulnerable. And the masculine's trying to remind themselves and saying, if I am not vulnerable, neither will she. If I want the feminine to be open and honest with me, I must be open and honest with the feminine. I cannot energetically fake this. The feminine can always tell when I'm energetically faking it. This is the masculine saying, if I aspire towards having that feminine that is open and honest and going to share their dreams with me, I must show them that I am capable of rising to the same energetic challenge. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union right now, this is a lot of the energetic unpacking of the wounds. Remember, a lot of these energies just got very energetically mindful of carrying something for the other. And it feels like a lot of that unpacking of the energetic insecurity. Masculine, the same question that's happening for masculine in separation. When did I stop trusting the feminine? Right? If there's a moment here of the masculine feeling energetically triggered and also like closing down a little bit, this is possibly masculine doing a lot of that unpacking and saying, when did this start? Especially if this is a feminine that's not forcing that, but almost saying when you're ready. While for the feminine, if this is a masculine that again isn't forcing you against those insecurities, isn't almost saying, I'm going to build a garden around where those insecurities are. I'm going to make those my favorite spot. I'm not going to ever traverse beyond them, but I'm going to show you how much I don't see those as insecurities. That's the feminine almost again saying, when did I start feeling like something that someone tells me is not a negative was a negative? So even in these moments, experiencing that sense of that compassion towards an insecurity immediately opens the possibility of exploration and healing it. While for masculine and feminine energy, this is the energy at the heart of the divine union that's actively healing those spaces. The importance, though, has to do with the feminine coming into that state of energetic resilience. Feminine understanding that when they push forward on something that is an insecurity and almost having someone help them navigate through it, that ability of standing in their energetic power, it's required to be able to speak from a place of knowing oneself. Because that is the difference when you push an envelope between feeling like you're doing so from a state of confidence and energetic excitement versus feeling like someone is pushing you forward in a direction that you aspire to go, but you feel that reluctance to. Like even now that's the feminine energy that feels that point of navigating forward in a way that is the expression of their energetic confidence. While for masculine, in the divine union frequency, this is the same work that you're doing. You're looking towards feminine and almost saying to the feminine, the more secure and stable you are, the more confident I can be, because then I can trust you that when you say something, I know you energetically mean it. I know that you speak from your chest. That's something that the masculine does, tries to, that is the focus of a lot of the masculine energy. And so when the masculine energy feels that same sense from the feminine, of the feminine being able to speak from their chest. And when I say speak from their chest, I don't mean that feminine energy that goes, maybe, if, I don't know. The feminine energy going, I know, because I know myself energetically. I've done that work in parsing out what is mine and what's not mine. So when I speak from my chest, know that I'm not going to back off on that. Know that I'm not going to rescind that. Know that I'm not going to become, too adaptable. That is the masculine that says, I feel energetically confident and safe when the feminine speaks from their chest. And I'm recovering from spaces and places wherein the feminine may not have, wherein the feminine may not have known themselves enough, where the feminine may have created wounds in me because I led forward in places where I thought, that's that moment of the miscommunications, the confusions, the amplifications, the hurts, the betrayals, right? So we see both of these energies in the divine union working to heal these modalities, seeking that energetic part from the other. And it requires a lot of strength in terms of knowing oneself as you proceed forward in that way. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Judgment card in its reversal and our Three of Cups. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with Tower in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union. This is why there's so much about this. It feels like that modality of energetic recovery. It feels like that moment of energetic healing, because even now we see that a lot of these energies, I told you, they're navigating a lot of those uncertainties. There's a lot of that uncertainty in relationality to having that point of energetic reconsideration. And we see even now that the gift, the beauty, the value of a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency has to do in building forth in the sense of building into the state of the energetic present, right? This is what is allowing that energy right now to feel that sense of energetic abundance, because I told you there's a lot of that wait and see approach. There's a lot of like moving forward and not knowing what is going to occur in the future. Like energetically, like I told you, if you're doing something, if you're breaking out of your own cycles, like there's always that fear, like that unknown, because you're moving away from something that feels energetically safe into that place or space that you haven't explored before. A lot of this energy holding on to trauma like a clutched fist right now and being like, why are you holding on to that? Be like, I don't know. You want to let go of it? Yep. You want to open your hand? Yep. Okay, just open your hand whenever you're ready. Okay, just going to wait for it. I'm not going to force you. Right? So like a lot of that energy doing that work is almost that a moment of like, again, the ability to just energetically release in that way. The ability for someone to do, like I told you, just the resistance point, not just coming into that sense of easement. Like that is the point of energetic celebration, because it's almost that moment that like we allow ourselves to like, you know, surrender the energetic control to a certain extent, that allows for that sense of positivity. It allows for that sense of energetic celebration, because that ability to kind of just like, again, embrace the positivity and surrender the energetic outcome, that in itself creates that sense of positivity, right? Because you're not holding your breath on something. You're not waiting to see what happens. You're just enjoying the moment that it is happening. So we see even now a lot of that energy doing that work to help one another as they go forward in that way, right? And it's hard work, but it's positive, it's productive, it's good. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union. That is the same energetic work. The energy is not doing, like I told you, on whenever you're ready, on your timeline. Right? And that's why we see even now, like a lot of that energy doing a lot of work in navigating and holding another's wounds in the way that they would aspire and desire, and saying almost to each other, you know, I'm never going to force you out of that space. I'm never going to make you have that difficult conversation. I'm never going to push forward on that insecurity unless you're ready to. But just know whenever you are, any minute you are, I am here to open that. I'm here to navigate that with you. So that's the energy, again, coming into alignment with the same energy that's doing so in the divine union frequency. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, this is, I don't even want to say that there's a lot of this energy that feels like they're in separation at this time, because this is a lot of the energy in separation that, again, there's a lot of energetic restoration that's happening right now. And that restoration is either new energetic connections that are building that sense of energetic closure on the past, or these are energetic connections right now that are having moments of energetic recovery from the past, but validated but verified as true, positive, productive moments, because someone is bringing something back that they didn't necessarily have at the last time that you energetically left something, right? So for both of these energies right now, for all of the energies in separation, there's a lot of positivity and catharsis potentially happening either in the new energetic connections that you're making during this time with discernment, or with a lot of that energetic healing or restoration that's coming in. But again, being articulated and amplified, not just by someone coming back and saying like, I miss you, I like you, but saying like, I understand, I know what I can bring back on here. I know what energetically needs to occur to allow for a different energetic outcome. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 3 of Cups in its upright and our 10 of Cups in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Hierophant. This is gorgeous energy. Masculine and feminine energy right now in separation. This is slow, guys. This is slow, 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 slow. But slow, slow and steady. It's good. Why? This energy is not rushing forward. What happens when you make an authentic connection with someone? When you make a truly authentic connection, sometimes you want to slow it down. Sometimes you know, what's the rush? If you're enjoying yourself, if you're enjoying the ability of coming into connection with someone, it almost feels like that sense, like you don't feel that necessity of having to energetically rush something, because you're not doing so. It's not, the energy isn't a means to an end, right? It's not that these are energies that are meeting or coming to, like, they're not trying to rush towards a manifestation goal with one another, right? These are energies that are trying to feel that easement point in all the spaces in between. And what happens when we look towards energetic connections and we say, I'm not just trying to fulfill a manifestation goal with you, I'm here for all the spaces and states in between. That is the energy that feels like they're building towards true energetic commitment, because that isn't, again, that ability of moving slowly is, again, that moment of feeling that expression of saying, like, whatever you feel like doing, it doesn't matter. I'm here just to be able to be in the company of you. I'm here just to be in the presence of you, just sharing that space with you. Like, that's what it feels like when you're in alignment. You're like, we could be doing energetically anything right now. Doesn't matter what that is. And that is the energy that's building either, again, new energetic connections, just enjoying one another's company. Building into that campfire energy, that sense of energetic slowness, that you feel that uncertainty about what will occur, but just enjoying it as it is, because just the enjoyment of it is the expression of feeling like you could do energetically anything with one another. So we see here a lot of new, authentic, energetic connections that are forming at this time. Or these are energies that are experiencing those moments of true energetic restoration in relationality to healing, but with the energy having the accountability factor and being able to say, I see what I was doing that was energetically wrong. I can observe how I was perceiving something in the wrong way. I can observe how I was perceiving you in the wrong way. I can observe what I can energetically change. I am actively doing that energetic work. I'm actively working on those things. And I am coming back towards you because my priority is the energetic commitment. So we see even now a lot of this positive breakthrough that's occurring right now in these energetic connections. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Nine of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Tower in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with, we love seeing this. We've got our Sun card. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation. This is what we see in relationality to a lot of this energy build. I'm going to say a lot of energy in separation right now, just coming into that state or space of building energetic closure around this, like for the self. And I got to stress this because you got, like, I always feel like we got this confusion point. Like, what is closure? We don't get closure from people. We don't go back to people for closure. We go back to people for opening. Like, the closure energy that we're seeing here, this is the closure of energy in separation, moving forward and feeling that positivity in what lies ahead, right? That energy, like turning to the sun, letting the shadows fall behind you, that ability of looking and saying, I'm going in that direction. It's not that everything was energetically perfect from the past, but the ability to feel that sense of energetic recovery from something. A lot of this energy is now almost able to articulate to a certain extent what wasn't working right in the past is getting some light shed on it in the present that's helping amplify that sense of productivity going forward. So we see even now for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, that is either the new energetic connections that you're starting to make, feeling that, like, again, coming out of that dark night of the soul, you're seeing that light on the other side. You're feeling that sense of energetic positivity, if you will, that feels like it is amplifying that sense of like what direction you're moving on towards right now. So for a lot of the energy in that modality right now, that feels like an energetic breakthrough. While if these are energies that are coming into that pathwork of restoration, this is the energy that feels like that pathwork of restoration. It's not just something coming back and returning in the same way that it did, but it's feeling that sense or identifying that sense of something that can truly change. Seeing someone bringing forth something that shows that capacity of change, that feels like the difference of someone changing for the sake of another, as opposed to someone who says, I have changed for the sake of myself, and I want to bring it back towards you at this time because I recognize that that allows for a different outcome, right? While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in the divine union frequency or coming into the divine union frequency, this is a lot of that energetic equivalent of feeling that possibility of healing something that you brought in from outside the divine union frequency. This is the energetic equivalent of feeling like you're having those energetic breakthroughs. You're having that pathwork. You're having that understanding. Either the energy, again, feeling someone holding something with a state or space of compassion that opens up the possibility of a different experience or circumstance. Or this is the energetic equivalent, if you will, of energy that is forging forward right now and doing something or having something that feels typically energetically sensitive, but experiencing it in such a way that it feels like it's not creating that reactivity space in you, almost amplifies and allows for that sense of energetic breakthrough. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Tower card in its reversal in combination with our Hierophant. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Six of Wands in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy that is in the divine union frequency. You know, this is like, I have to say, you know, what is difficult in moments around work like this? It's energetically painful, right? Because when you're doing work like this, again, one of the things that often comes up, especially if there are moments or experiences wherein you're holding something and you're starting to energetically heal, you're starting to let go, the ability to see something in a different way at that time, right? At that moment of energetically letting go, it sometimes helps you see something that you couldn't see before within the self. It helps you identify something within the self. And it can feel a little energetically overwhelming to a certain extent at those moments. Because there's those moments like when you energetically heal something in this way, it almost builds that clarity in terms of recognizing and identifying what you would have done better before. Because sometimes, like, this is why we try to heal these energetic wounds, because these energetic wounds often feel like those moments of seeing past places and spaces. It's like, why did the wound form? The wound energetically forms from that state or space of looking around something and saying something bad happened and I couldn't do anything about it, right? Something bad happened and I couldn't do anything about it. So I made an energetic commitment to myself of never letting something happen again. This is what's so energetically painful when we carry these wounds, because it's not the sense or the space that we do so because we want to energetically harm others with it. It's almost, I told you, that misplaced assignment, that misplaced commitment to yourself, that is the misunderstanding of an energetic lesson in a way that doesn't feel like it builds into a place of positivity, but almost amplifies an energetic wound, right? So for like masculine, if these are moments that masculine was like, the reason I'm not intimate with feminine is because something bad happened once. I couldn't trust feminine once, and so I never did that again, right? So for the masculine energy going through that, that can be a painful process of recognizing, because that's that moment that almost said, I learned a lesson wrong once, and then I denied myself the gift of intimacy for that point onward. Like I closed my, like I created that wall, and I put myself behind that wall all up until this point. While for feminine, that could be that moment of the feminine saying, someone told me to get energetically smaller. Someone told me to stop being who I was. And so I stopped being who I was from that point on. I tried to become what anyone else wanted me to be from that point on. So we see even now a lot of this energy in the heart of the divine union doing that deep energetic unpacking. And it's like the expression of that. It almost feels like a wail, because it's almost that moment of saying and seeing it being like, I denied myself that all that time. I denied myself all that space, that energetic commitment that I tried to protect myself from, denied myself of the ability to experience that from that point forward. And it's almost that moment that feels energetically like a painful point, because that's that moment that you look back and you feel the weight of recognizing something and saying, I'm not going to do that anymore, but I can't recover the spaces and places that it took me to be able to recognize that. So if you've been feeling that, just remember that if you've made that energetic breakthrough, that is the sign of you energetically taking that wall down, right? That's already that moment. So that ability to feel that, like that energetic pain, even as you do so, like let that be the heart opening exercise. And it doesn't feel to me, like, remember, that's not a moment of getting caught in that sense of what was energetically lost. That should be that moment of feeling the sign of like restoration and what can be gained now that you're having that energetic breakthrough. While for masculine and feminine energy, that is, that is the energy coming into divine union that's feeling it's like the wall's not energetically coming down in that way, but I feel like the wall's getting shaky. Like the wall's getting shaky. Right? The wall's getting a little shaky there, because that energetic act of compassion, like it creates that space that it's even now starting to like create that sense of the foundation, like getting a little like soft, if you will, right? Like that's what that vibration does. While for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, a lot of this work that we see is that sense of affirmation in relationality to having those spaces or having those places wherein you're affirming, you're looking back at the past, right? It's not that you're not carrying the past with you, but we're coming into that state or space of recognizing and identifying that for a lot of the energy in separation, that work, that path work of looking at the past, not wanting to go back to the past, but letting the past and whatever did not work in the past affirm your commitment to the present. That is the energy that is allowing for that new path work of productivity going forward. Final card for today's spread between our Sun card in its upright and our Six of Wands in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Queen of Pentacles, masculine and feminine energy right now in separation. Like this is really beautiful, because we see even now like there's a lot of this work in separation where feminine energy is moving into, and masculine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, that shifting of energetic priority that is allowing for that sense of new possibility or new opportunity, as it were. And it is having a different impact on the energetic frequencies. For masculine, this is a lot of the energy in separation that is doing that work in terms of identifying and recognizing those spaces and places, unpacking, even as they're making new energetic connections, where some of those vulnerabilities came, where that lack of trust came, almost navigating forward in that way, and not allowing the work of the past, not bringing the negative lesson from the past into the experience of the present. but almost just speaking towards it to help the feminine energy understand why there is that trepidation. And for the feminine energy to experience that, that immediately feels like a point of validation for the feminine, because the feminine seeing the masculine able to articulate on their own pathwork to such an extent that they're able to identify even those spaces and places where it makes it hard to energetically trust. That's the feminine saying you're already doing the work. Your understanding of yourself is such so that you don't objectify, you don't externalize it. You don't say, I can't trust anyone. You're saying, I identify where I started to lose trust. I identify that single experience I may have amplified and put that across a bunch of experiences. Feminine says, I've done that too. Right? That's feminine almost immediately building that wall with masculine and building a new bridge with masculine, taking those same stones and building a bridge with it, because that's the feminine saying none of us are energetically perfect. Right? Your own ability to identify and recognize, like your own ability to identify and recognize what hasn't gone wrong, that's the feminine energy already saying, I think that you're already doing it. Because you're not looking outside of yourself and you're not looking at the world and seeing it energetically lacking. You're looking at yourself and you're asking, what could I change to make something energetically better going forward? So we see even now, for a lot of the feminine energy experiencing that in new energetic connections with masculine, this is the feminine energy starting to feel that energetic security in the difference between feeling like they have to kind of come into alignment and accommodate for the energy of the masculine, as opposed to feeling that sense of building that sense of strength for themselves. So masculine coming towards the feminine with that heightened sense of vulnerability, and feminine holding compassionate space for it. Even, I have to stress here, even in those moments here, even in those spaces or places where feminine might not feel like they're energetically aligned, is this the feminine that's like pushing the masculine energy away at that time? No, this is feminine energy that's holding what the masculine is giving them with that energetic compassion, not taking it personally, because this is the feminine energy that's also on that pathwork of saying, I've been there. I know what you're experiencing. I know how it feels to feel energetically vulnerable. I know how it feels to feel energetically rejected. These are the feminine energy almost saying, like, the difference with the masculine and feminine is masculine's like, I felt like that. I built this strength, this point where I can't feel. And feminine saying, I was trying to make myself so accommodating that I could suit everyone else's purposes. So we see both of these energies doing that healing work, even as they're coming into new energetic connections, that is allowing for that pathwork of possibility in relationality to what one can change going forward, that allows for that ability of possibility. And we see even now that's masculine doing a lot of that work. I need to say, this isn't masculine energy trying to change for the feminine. This is masculine energy trying to move forward from a place of authenticity to find the feminine counterpart that feels like they're in energetic alignment for them. And this is feminine energy in separation doing the same. Saying, I want to build that sense of resiliency. I want to understand myself enough so that I'm able to articulate to the masculine who I am. And not feel like I need to be adaptable in that space. Recognizing that the masculine that's forming will will find me in that place and not see anything there that feels like it is not in alignment. They'll be able to embrace me there, because that's the feminine saying, I'm working on focusing on being the best version of myself that I can be. While it's for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is in separation, that pathwork, that is coming into divine union. This is the feminine energy. And the masculine seeing something that's energetically different that is happening around them, that is allowing for that sense or that feeling of energetic opportunity. For feminine, having the masculine hold the wound of the feminine, holding those insecurities, not the way that they would, but almost with that cut, like that sense of conscientiousness on how the feminine would aspire and desire something held, immediately creates a moment for the feminine of saying, do I need to carry that wound? Like, it almost immediately opens the question up and saying, is that something that needs to be energetically carried? And that's the feminine doing a lot of that work in parsing out within the self what feels like it creates that sense of stability. While for masculine, that is the same. Seeing a feminine that does that work on the self, that is able to articulate and identify what feels like that energetic point of strength, what feels like that moment or that opportunity, a feminine energy that knows themselves enough that they're able to energetically like speak from their chest. And that comes from that sense of understanding and recognizing the self enough. That's the masculine that feels secure and strength with the feminine. Because that's the masculine feeling like when they give them feminine energy, their vulnerability or their insecurity, they know that the feminine will always articulate like how they are energetically feeling and what they are energetically feeling. So that's the way that the feminine protects the masculine. While as for the energy right now in the heart of the divine union frequency, this is that, and these energies are holding space for each other, not in the way that they would, but in the way that they know the other desires for the sake of potentially one day healing it. It's not necessary, but it is aspired and desired. While for masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency, you're doing that energetic unpacking now. You're looking at something and saying, is this necessary to carry, or is this holding us back? Is this blocking you from being your best version of self? Because that is that energy that's almost doing the hard work and saying, I'm showing this to you. Not because I want you to energetically change, but because I want you to be your best version of self. And only by experiencing those moments are we able to find that higher version of self. And this is the energy in the divine union that welcomes that energetic journey, right? For masculine, that's the masculine almost saying, if there's something about me that you see that I don't see, I want you to show that to me. Because you're doing that from an act of compassion. And I trust that you're not doing it because you're trying to energetically change me. I trust you doing that because I know you see parts of me that I don't see. And that's the feminine saying the same in kind to the masculine. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Bottom of the deck on this reading right now, justice in its reversal. So a lot of this work right now related to fixing and working through a lot of that energetic imbalance. It's hard when we do this type of work because that imbalance, that sense of energetic imbalance, if you will, that is something that is hard to navigate, because even what do we see is happening right now for a lot of the energy in the divine union. You're navigating spaces and places that you know create that imbalance within you, right? You just know that it's there. You experience that it's there. So how, like, it's almost like that uncertain vector or that variable of what you don't know or how, about your own self, or what you can't see. A lot of this energy is working through spaces and places that are hard for them to unpack. You know, we can never predicate on something that we haven't experienced. So we see even now that like that feeling, that uncertainty, that almost requires that sense of like perpetual energetic recognition in terms of what feels like it's bringing balance versus what is creating imbalance. Whereas for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, that is that mindfulness of kind of feeling like there's something here that you would effectively like to bring forth to someone. But you're being very conscientious or discerning on that, because that's that energetic act of compassion, because you're building trust. And we see even now that that energy doesn't want to come into that place of feeling like they're trying to change someone, right? But almost like that energetic mindfulness and looking towards someone and saying, is this something that I feel will help them? Or is this something that I feel like I might bring forth that might not necessarily be ready to be experienced or understood, right? It takes a little bit of that like conscientiousness, if you will. It's like that delicate like dance, if you will. While it's for masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, this is that uncertainty point. There's a lot of anxiety here for a lot of the energy in separation and not wanting to repeat past cycles. Really wanting to move into that modality of energetic healing. And it feels a little touch and go, because a lot of this energy feels like they're healing on the way. This is energy that it says to themselves, I'm not perfect. But that's the thing. Being in partnership does not require you to be perfect. It just requires you to be discerning on what you do and do not need to work on. That's what healing is. It's never being energetically perfect. It's just recognizing that you're doing, or you're focused on that journey. That is our daily collective read for today. I would like to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, If you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, strega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. Also, some things I'd like to bring you guys up to speed on. First and foremost, just a reminder that we are now offering our class program is active. We have started our tarot journey. Last month, we focused our cards and our classes on the Fool. Our next class will be on May 15th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. That class will be focused on the Magician card. All you need to do to become a part of those classes is become a paid subscriber to my Substack, graystrega.substack.com. Your subscription will grant you access to the monthly live class, as well as all of the recordings and coursework of the previous classes. So if you missed that first class, never fear. No, you didn't. You can still catch up from where we left off. Also, you will have access to a one-on-one chat with me where you can ask me any questions in relation to the tarot or what we're learning in the classes. And also, if you become a founding member to my Substack, included in your subscription will not only be a discount on the full year of classes, but you'll also receive a free 1-hour mentorship reading with me, wherein we will assess and address where you are on your own tarot journey and spiritual path, and I'll give you any insight in terms of how to utilize the classes to the best of your advantage, as well as helping you on what you would best feel is the best way to go in terms of your own tarot journey. I want to thank everyone who's already joining with me, who's already joined me for these classes, and I'm so excited to proceed forward in this way. Thank you all. And even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me over there just to stay abreast of any new offerings, events that we may have planned. The world's a crazy place. I want to make sure that we can all stay in connection. So if you can follow me there, I would really appreciate it, as well as my other social platforms. Again, I want to thank you guys so much for being here and sharing today in these messages. And we will do this again